WWE 24 Kurt Angle Homecoming. This is a recent edition of the WWE 24 series, and of course, this will chronicle Kurt Angle's return to the WWE, talk about his Hall of Fame induction, and of course, his return to Raw as the general manager. So, documentary starts, they show him at ESPN, then of course the big thing is his return to WWE headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut, in which he's going to finally meet Vince for first time in 11 years. So first person he meets is Stephanie. He talks to her in the hallways, and then he meets Triple H. So he talks to Hunter, they show him talking to Hunter, then of course the big thing is when he goes down to see Vince in his office. So when he talks to Vince, it's kind of funny. Vince kicks out all the cameras. I thought that was actually kind of funny, and then he just we don't really get to see what their conversation was, and that was a little disappointing, but it was fine. At least it came off more real, and it wasn't just for the cameras. They kicked them all off out of his own documentary for his own network. So now they go back to Pittsburgh in his hometown. So when they're talking about him in Pittsburgh, he talks about this building, and his dad was a construction worker, and they show this other building behind the biggest building in Pittsburgh he helped build, but I think that building behind it is when he died. His dad died at the age of 55 when he fell 13 feet, so that was actually they're talking about really his whole life, and that was actually I never really knew that about Kurt Angle. So they're talking about the Olympics, and how we first started all these problems with his neck was an Olympic qualifying match in which he details how he broke his neck. The other guy, I think they were in position, and the other guy going to flip him to put him on his back to score a point. In order to prevent the point, he stuck his head out, and then I believe that's where he broke his neck, and that's where all the problems happened. He ended up giving up the point anyway. He actually came back to win, and he won the whole qualifying tournament, but they really talk about that's really the whole had problems with his neck for like 20 years. That's really where it started. Also, they show him in Pittsburgh, and he talks to Dr. Maroon, who's also, who Dr. Maroon is. He's the one who will not let Daniel Bryan ever wrestle again. He refuses to clear Daniel Bryan. He's also the head doctor of the Pittsburgh Steelers, so Kurt's Pittsburgh. He's in this documentary, and he's also WWE's head doctor, I believe. So then they show him winning the Olympic gold medal, and now I believe we're going to see his first when he first started with WWE. So they talk about he talks about when the first time he got called by WWE was in '96. His original contract offer, Vince offered him a gigantic big money deal right after he won the Olympics. It was 10 years for a lot of money, but he told Vince he could never lose, and unfortunately he didn't hear from Vince again for another 2 years. And then they show him in He said he never liked wrestling. He never liked professional wrestling. He was actually a shoot wrestler, a real wrestler, and he was always told, "Don't watch that; it's fake, you're real." All that stuff we always hear. But then he said he started watching it in '98, and that's when he became a fan. And he actually wanted to do this. Kind of funny, they show the tryouts. They actually show in one of his tryouts, one of the guys who was there was Edge. You can tell it was Edge. You can hear him, yelling in agony after he took a bad bump. So they show Kurt Angle. He's in Pittsburgh. He's in Pittsburgh for, I believe it's a SmackDown show, and then he's actually meeting a lot of wrestlers. They show him meeting. First person they show him with is he talks to Alexa Bliss. Then he's going through the hallway. They show him with AJ, but they didn't mention that they worked together a million times in TNA. They show him meeting Cena, so he's meeting a lot of the wrestlers. So they show him meeting Rhino and Mickey James. Then they go. It's kind of cool. They show him at the SmackDown arena, the Pittsburgh arena, and they show him on his iPad or something, and they show his actual debut, which was in March of '99, which he made a debut. He beat the shit out of Tyler Singh, who was a bum. Anyway, they show that, and they show that he was supposed to be this Olympic hero babyface, but then Vince wanted to turn him heel. They actually show those old Kurt Angle vignettes when he was first debuting. That brings up memories. Those are really good. And they show, it's funny, he doesn't really understand the business yet, and this is '99. He doesn't understand why would the fans boo him, because he's an Olympic hero, and he doesn't understand wrestling fans yet. It's kind of funny. They show him getting booed in Pittsburgh when he's first debuting as a heel. I thought that was actually, I thought that was really well done, how they handled that, and how he went out after the fans for booing him. They show him winning the belt from The Rock, and that was obviously a great moment at No Mercy 2000. Then they show Unforgiven 2001. He wins his second title when he beats Austin. They also talk about how he was not afraid to make fun of himself. He did a lot of comedy, and he was actually one of the best wrestlers at doing comedy in the company at that time. So now they talk about Noah 2003. That's when all the downfall happened. That's his second neck injury and his first time in WWE. It was a match, a 6-man tag, and he was wrestling Brock in the match, and he was on Brock's back with the sleeper hold, and Brock just threw him over, and he hit the turnbuckle. I think that's where the neck break happened. So then they go talk about WrestleMania 19, the match of Brock, and he really talks about how the neck injury at the time, Vince didn't want him to wrestle, but he went ahead and he insisted he could wrestle, and he ended up doing it. I'm sure 2017, there's no way he's cleared. So then it's they show the match at 19, parts of it, and he loses to Brock in the title, and that was just a huge moment for him because he main evented WrestleMania. So they show him in surgery a week after Mania 19, and he actually came back 2 months later. So now it's Vengeance 2003. That's his return. He wins the title, but that is also when he starts using painkillers for his neck. Now it's his third neck injury. Third time he broke his neck. He's broken his neck 3 times. That's crazy. Now it's 6 months after that. So now, one thing I really like, they're showing the montage, or showing his rehabilitation of his third neck injury. And one thing I really like is they always play in Age 24. They played the theme song on piano. I wish WWE can just release this giant album of every singles, all their wrestlers, past and present, some of those memorable theme songs, all on piano. I think that'd be kind of cool. So he somehow gets cleared, and he gets to wrestle Eddie Guerrero at WrestleMania 20 for the belt, which is just nuts how he got cleared. He talks about breaking his neck for the 4th time now at WrestleMania 20. It's just absolutely, oh my god, I don't know how this guy's not paralyzed. He even talks about putting 25 painkillers in his mouth and hoping he wouldn't wake up. This is getting really deep. Then they show when he was SmackDown GM, which I really liked him when he was SmackDown GM. I thought he was really entertaining, and I thought he did a good job. He somehow gets cleared, and then at WrestleMania 21, he's back for that show, and he has that classic match with Shawn Michaels, one of the best WrestleMania matches ever. That match is just great. Then he starts out having all these incredible matches. I thought this was might have been some of his best stuff in WWE in the ring. He was just tearing it up with everyone at this point in 2005, 2006, and he was talking about he thought every match would be his last, and then they showed the next year, WrestleMania 22, when he had the triple threat with Randy Orton and Rey Mysterio. And they also showed that match he had with Taker the month before that, No Way Out, which is a very underrated match. That match was great. They're starting to show the problem with the painkillers he's having, and you just see his reactions, how he's changing. You can see how much of a toll this is taking on him. He even talks about he has a bit of a problem with John Cena and the monster push he was getting, how he thought he was taking his spot. So now we go to 2006, and when he was released, they mutually parted ways. I think it was more like he was actually fired, but in this show they say he's mutually released. Vince wanted him to get help. He refused to get help, and I believe that's when they split. One thing they don't talk about too much is how much of they go into detail how much of that conversation that they had. They just say it was quick. I'm sure there's a lot more to it, and we don't get to see too much of that. I would kind of wish we would have learned more. So now they show, he leaves. See if they talk about TNA. I know Dexter Carter's on this documentary. Let's see how much they talk about his time in TNA. So he talked about how the problems he had with the painkillers, and he started to turn to Xanax and alcohol. And then they have the article. He says he signs with TNA Wrestling. So they finally mentioned TNA. They mentioned New Japan. They mentioned Ring of Honor. They can mention all these other promotions. They've mentioned PWG, I believe, before. Finally mentioned TNA. Wow. So they show Dixie Carter, and they're acknowledging he went to TNA. Oh my goodness. So they're talking about TNA. They show Mickey James talking to him. They show Samoa Joe. So now he's going to the cemetery, and he starts talking about some of the family he's lost due to addiction and alcoholism. So again, we're getting really personal. Never knew his sister died of a heroin overdose in 2003. I believe his mother died in 2015. So then he talks about some of his, he talks about he had to break the addiction for his kids, and then they show him and his new wife, Giovanna. They don't mention Karen Jarrett, who Jeff Jarrett stole from him. So Jeff Jarrett's a scumbag, but they don't really talk too much about that. That's fine. Fuck Jeff Jarrett. Don't even give him any attention. I can't stand that guy. Anyway, they start showing his wife Giovanna and some of the how they first met. Then again, problems in TNA. When he was in TNA with his alcohol addiction, he had like 4 DUIs in 5 years. I remember that. Well, I remember thinking, man, this guy's probably going to be another Eddie Guerrero. He's going to die, and luckily he was able to turn around. It's actually a really happy story. They show his wife having to tell him she's going to leave him unless he gets his act, until he cleans up. Man, you can tell, this guy was close to death. And of course, he has to go into rehab. He finally gets better, and it's good. It's a happy story, and he's finally, basically does it for his kids, and his wife was crying. Again, it goes very deep. It's really sad to see how bad things got for him. It's also really nice to see how much he's able to rebound. Now he's in the Hall of Fame. He became general manager of Raw, so it was really a great redemption story. So now they show him again. He's in Orlando. He's with people. He meets Kevin Owens, meets Christian there, Foley. So again, really good story. Now he's with his family in Disney World. So he's at the Hall of Fame, and they show John Cena, him interacting with John Cena backstage, and Cena of course had his first match with Kurt. So it's kind of cool. They're showing him backstage. So I think they show Sasha Banks with one of his kids, and again talk about the Hall of Fame. And he didn't really expect he'd be in because he was there 7 years, even though he was a huge star. He was one of the most popular guys in the company for a while. But he did only wrestle 5. I think he missed 2. He said he missed 2 for neck injuries. But the fact that anyone thinks he doesn't deserve it is just absolutely preposterous. That guy was a huge star, one of the best wrestlers the company had. Great on the mic, massively over. I think that's even just preposterous. Even anyone to even doubt that he's not going into the Hall of Fame. That's just crazy. Show him interacting with AJ. When that was surprising, when they're talking about TNA, they didn't really have AJ talk. I thought they'd have him talk. So he's at the Hall of Fame now with, I believe that's his daughter. And, and this Hall of Fame speech was a bit weird. It was kind of different. It was much more comedy. It was a lot more of him auditioning to become Raw general manager than it was talking about his true career, but it was still enjoyable. So they go through his speech, he does the milk stuff, and now it's to WrestleMania when he comes out for his Hall of Fame. So documentary is about to finish up. Again, to show him being general manager of Raw. Great documentary. Documentary was great. Another great WWE24 documentary. This one, again, was it was a much more serious tone, very deep, very personal. Talks about, again, it's a miracle this guy's still alive. He could have been paralyzed from all the neck injuries. He could be dead from all his addictions to painkillers and Xanax and alcohol. So, really great story, really great documentary. And, W24, these are awesome. I love all their documentaries. Virtually all of them I've really enjoyed. So, really, really a great documentary and definitely a must-see.